This will be a bit of a rambly video. There's a lot to say, but I will start by saying I voted today, and by the title you can tell who I voted for president at least. I voted for Biden, and it sucks. Joe Biden is trash. I feel like I basically voted for a Republican today by voting for Biden, and that's gross. Ugh, okay. But the main point of what I want to talk about today is that, honestly, literally, until this morning, I was not sure whether I was going to vote for Biden or I was going to skip that line on the ballot. And so I want to talk about that. For quite a while, since Biden became the nominee, I was leaning toward skipping that line on the ballot. But in the past 2 weeks, I had started to lean toward voting for Biden. And I kind of want to talk about that experience and just sort of put out there the fact that if you have that question as well, you're not the only one with that question. And 100% honestly, I'm not going to tell you what to do, because I fully understand making both decisions. I get it. I do not judge you for it. I get it. So this is not a let me convince you to vote for Biden because gross. This is just this is what this process was like for me. So it is also very important to say at the beginning of this that I was able to weigh this out because I live in a solidly blue state. Biden, last time I checked, was up by 18 points in my state. So because we base this entirely on the Electoral College, my state's votes are guaranteed going to Biden. And so I was able to then choose whether or not I wanted to contribute to his popular vote count. And that's a big chunk of what it came down to for me, because I am worried about what Trump will do, and so wanting to add to Biden's popular vote total in order to make it harder for Trump to try to steal the election was a factor, one of the deciding factors in why I chose to vote the way I did today. And that sucks too, because, well, one, just the Electoral College, but also it sucks that people are in a position of voting for someone they don't like because they're scared of what will happen if they don't. That's just a sucky situation. And I also want to talk about this because I am very aware that to the liberal mindset and perspective, it's someone like me is like unfathomable. And so, like, I am a real person, I am a real voter. This was a real process for me. And usually, when we talk about undecided voters, we are talking about people who are choosing between this candidate or this candidate. I don't think that's really the case this year for undecided voters. One, there is a uncommonly small number of people who are making that decision. Anyone who Trump was going to win over, he has won over. Anyone he is going to lose who voted for him last time, which is like maybe 5%, he's already lost. Like, people have very solid grasps of how they feel about these candidates, and that's not really moving or changing. But from the liberal mindset of not understanding that deliberation at all, it's because it's set up as so black and white. Like, you're voting for the good person or the evil person, which I get. But to the person who is considering whether or not to vote for president, who looks at both candidates and is like, are either one of them going to sign a $15 minimum wage? Are either one of them going to pass Medicare for all? Are either one of them going to enact a robust Green New Deal? Are either one of them going to make sure that my state has the funding to pave the road in my town? That is not an experience that could be described as privileged. And that is how a lot of people experience their lives. It is also completely legitimate to say that it matters of, is Biden likely to continue the concentration camps at the border? Is Biden likely to ban all people of a certain religion from entering the country? Those are things to consider as well. And etc., obviously. And I think it's, as long as Democratic candidates are this much better than Republican candidates, they can muscle people into voting for them and then not really do anything better than this much better than the Republicans would do. And that is just going to keep continuing. And that is why people are hesitant to vote for trash candidates. This was not an easy decision. And if your reaction to me saying that was anger or complete disbelief, okay, I understand the perspective that you are coming from. I understand that that is a first reaction type of response. Okay. But if you are looking at people who are struggling with this vote, or people who will not vote and calling them evil, that's not only not helpful. Like, it's not like, oh, well, you need to be welcoming. No, that's not what we're talking about. It's just a complete shutting off of the thoughts and perspectives and experiences that would lead someone to want to put more thought into that decision. And if you can't understand that, then you're not going to get very far. Especially with your understanding of current American politics. In any situation, if it appears very clear to you and yet not clear to another person. That's an interesting, that have the intellectual curiosity to wonder, to ask questions, to actually converse of how that experience is as true for that person as your experience is true for you. I voted the way that I did today partly out of a really just rational paranoia of what Trump might do and wanting the other candidate to have more votes, and also in recognition of the legitimacy that a trash capitalist is better than a trash fascist. Because Biden doesn't want to fix anything. Biden said very early on that nothing would fundamentally change, and I believe him when he said that. And that's the thing that you should realize is that while status quo might be better than it continuing to get worse, status quo is horrible. It is unsustainable on so many levels for 150 to 200 million people cannot live with the status quo. And that's what Joe Biden is. And that's why it's a hard decision. So I know this video is really choppy, but I guess overall, it's good to think about who you are going to vote for and why. That's not a bad thing to do. You want to have a voting public who is educated and will consider various possibilities, will look at a candidate's record and decide who they want to represent them. And I understand that it is hard to this for me and for most people with this question was never, ever, 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 ever a question of Biden or Trump. That's ridiculous. But I am not talking about that. I am talking about voting for Biden or not voting for president. I do think that even if you don't want to vote for Biden, you should definitely vote for other candidates who do support you and will support your life, your well-being. If there are candidates for Congress or for state Senate that you feel are awesome people, then 100% vote for them, even if you're not voting for Biden. Still do that. Yeah, people are not really socially allowed to talk about making this decision. And so I wanted to kind of just say that I had to make this decision. So it does exist for real people and real voters, and that my thoughts and experiences and perspectives and hopes for myself and the country where I live, that those are all valid. And that my discomfort and anger about feeling that I needed to vote for Joe Biden, we should have, ideally, we should be able to choose between candidates who there's someone we agree with and agree with less, or agree and disagree with but and are not fearful of. That should be the case, and it is not the case. But protests are not going away. Pushing Biden to be better is not going away. The idea that it is going to be smooth sailing with Biden is just malarkey. So whatever you choose, as long as you considered it, as long as you feel it's best for you, I cannot say that it's not best for you. So, educate yourself, learn about other candidates that are on the ballot, vote as safely as you possibly can, and do not give up on what you want.